Yeah, so removing that factor from the game entirely. Is TSM once again going to ban away this crawl? This is definitely something that they just don't want to see in these games.
Yeah, well, it is a strong combo, especially with a Lance too. So it makes a lot of sense to take it away. Something that Europe loves to play, something that Dark Potato has been very strong with as well. So it makes sense to just take it off the board, not have to deal with it, force G2 to come up with something that they feel will be able to deal with the unknown of Team Solo Mid's remaining draft. They have no idea of what is necessarily going to be coming.
Yeah, I think G2 here potentially could go for Vox. Vox actually is good into Graves, but then TSM is probably going to pick up the Kestrel. So is G2 going to take the Kestrel here potentially and play basically Kestrel into Graves like how TSM did? But they're going to go actually with the Glaive here and then go with a Mage as a last pick. And Hundor has actually played a lot of CP Ringo, but CP Ringo would not work in this situation because of Graves. And wow, Adagio, Blackfeather, and Graves. This is the IMT composition that they played against Hammers and against SK, and it did so well.
Yeah, this Adagio carry has been a real highlight of the tournament so far. We've seen some exceptional amounts of damage coming out in these team fights, and if you can position the ultimate correctly, you can single-handedly win those fights. We'll see what G2 have up their sleeves to try and counter this competition.
I think Scarf would probably be the best option because Scarf, if late game, can easily defeat an Adagio and a Black Red, but they're going with Vox actually. There's been a double weapon composition that they ran before.
Yeah, I mean, this is a classic pick going into a Grace as well. You can dodge away from the Holy Nova, you can dance around these fights. We'll see how this one's going to pan out. What's the general vibe then, guys? This could be the last game of the series. Do G2 have what it takes to pull themselves back in?
The general vibe, I think, is that Team Solo Mid has looked like Team Solo Mid. They have looked like the #1 seed, and their play has just been so clean and so decisive that it is heavily leaning in their favor.
So EJ, talk to me. What can G2 do to pull themselves back in this series?
They got to play so decisive, get off lots of afterburn, shut Chuck down because Adagio does not have good escapes, and get Hunter ahead of Chuck. That's the only thing that they can do to win the game right now.
We'll see if they can pull it off. They've got a mountain to climb, and this is their final opportunity. Let's pass it back up to our casters and get into the third game of TSM against G2 Esports.
Previous Unified Western Live Championships, AJ, Europe hosting. It felt like in these scenarios maybe some European magic could happen, but we're in North America now. We're in the City of Angels, Los Angeles, and TSM are 2-0 up.
They are, and they look really good right now. Dalsy, G2 Esports, this was the last hope for Europe in this tournament, and it was also the team that historically has been able to do the best in this situation. But Team Solo Mid just look so strong. There's no gaps in their play right now. That's the biggest problem. Like G2, as I said, they've had windows, they've had glimmers, but they can't execute on it.
Have to see if they can do so here. The box coming out for Hundor. It's a pick that he has played to a great level of expertise, and in fact, I had a conversation with Hundor a couple of updates ago when Vox was at the top of his game, and he was telling me about how he was very annoyed that he could not play Adagio anymore because Poison Shiv on Vox just shuts down that matchup. It used to be Adagio was really good into Vox, but as soon as Poison Shiv became meta, it kind of flipped on its head. Now Poison Shiv on 2.7 has received nerfs. We'll have to see how that affects this matchup. Obviously, Hundor believes that it's still strong enough that he can take the advantage over Best Chuck and A's Adagio.
Wow, Best Chuck with a little bit of BM there, but G2, how can they make this one happen? So already we're seeing Team Solo Mid start to be a bit aggressive. Dark Potato doesn't realize anyone's there.
Yeah, the afterburn over the wall to save his life, but he's just opened up the opportunity for Vonsi to do whatever he wants, and what Vonsi wants is a middle sentry here, the older Treant, Keanu Nakoa, wanting to try and steal that away with an Impale. Very risky to do so. Even if you get it, you may die.
Oh, he doesn't get it either. That's bad news. And Vonsi's the one with the heal, so he can stick around if he wants to. I'm actually surprised he didn't. He wants to gain an item advantage here, though, and maybe try and snowball it that way. It's fair enough, you know, especially in a matchup as volatile as the Blackfeather into the Glaive. I understand it. You know, if Glaive can find the good windows, if you can get the jump on you, things can go pretty horribly wrong pretty fast. But at the same time, if Vonsi is like in a bush and starts with a basic attack, that's just never a trade anyone wins. You know, against a Blackfeather, it's really, really tough.
Have to see how Dark Potato can be influential in this game. In game one, on his Glaive, he was certainly looking for the afterburns to miss position. And now Keanu Nakoa with a follow-up hero in the Lance. The Finn's fairly good, but it relies on that overdrive on Quibble really to have the massive effect of being able to stun your opponent and keep them out of play. Here's a VonC finding Dark Potato isolated, but Kiana Nako is going to win the rotation, which means G2 have a slight opportunity. In fact, they're not going to take it. They disengage immediately. And that puts Kiana Nako in a bit of trouble. VonC now looking to charge on it. Flash X Benedict's over the wall, but misses his Holy Nova. And now look at Hundor rotating down. The Impale will keep TSM in place. They're looking for the first blood. They're going to get it. And that's G2 finding one. Hundor gets the kill as well. They're going to be winning out that trade, moving over to make sure they don't lose out on any more. Oh no, Dark Potato! He should be okay to walk away, you feel, but it's going to be Best Chuck stealing away some of these backs.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult for Dark Potato to fight on an even keel here. He's very low health going into it. The big question mark is whether or not this crowd control is going to connect for Keanu, and if Hundor can get here in time to actually get a good position in. Flash does get stunned.
Beautiful patience from Kiana Nakoa. The afterburn should secure this kill for G2 as Hundor looks for a second. Oh no! The auto attacks can't quite reach, and now Flash X has walked away! He's just gonna walk out of this one alive. Afterburn on such a long cooldown. Weapon power Glaive cannot find it, and that is a huge error for G2.
Oh man, that's rough. But yeah, there was really not enough cooldown reduction from Dark Potato this early on, either by leveling up the ability or by purchasing it to stick on top of Flash. That was a tough spot. Kiana Nakoa is doing a good job of finding a lot of these really long-range stuns, though. If you can keep the pressure on in the lane, things could go well. Look at this. This is interesting. Dark Potato actually picking up a very early Pierce item. On top of Hundor already picking up this Poison Shiv. There is going to be a pretty respectable amount of damage coming out. Both weapon power, obviously, but from G2 in this early game. It's about whether or not they can stick to their targets, though. About whether or not they can push through the double heal composition that's coming out of Team Solo Mid. Because even with a Poison Shiv, there's a lot of healing out of Grace Adagio that you've got to worry about. And also to stay in range to deal damage to the target that Grace is maybe using Divine Intervention on or trying to protect, or even Grace herself, you are putting yourself in a position where you're there for the Verse of Judgment. Now, if you're targeting the Verse of Judgment, then maybe Adagio is getting healed up by Divine Intervention. So there's a lot of contingency and redundancy in what Team Solo Mid can offer in these fights.
And one of the things I love about double weapon power in this scenario is that Adagio typically wants to go 4 damage items, and his one defensive item being a piece of armor so that he can protect himself against that double weapon power. But there's so much CC on G2 that perhaps you need that reflex block. The impales like this can just be led into afterburns, into Giffian walls, and so you need to get the reflex block. Does mean that he might go towards a Crucible to make the most out of that item. We'll have to see in the future. Dark Potato not wanting to be aggressive here. He is constantly using that afterburn in a defensive manner, and you don't get that up very often when you are playing weapon power Glaive here. It is a hefty cooldown, one you have to wait out. Going to be up in a second. Best Chuck's very far forward, but Hundor just takes so much poke, and that pretty much shuts down any chance of going for Best Chuck here. There is no fountain available for Kiana Nakoa, and so G2 are just sitting tight.
I would have liked to see Kiana Nakoa use his single flare there, actually, to flare the bush when Best Chuck made an aggressive move. Because what TSM is doing is they're bluffing right now. They're saying we have VonC waiting right below the lane. He's going to come get you if you jump on us. But that's not actually the scenario, right? Like, he's stealing away your jungle. Dark Potato is sitting behind his turret, afraid to afterburn. Hundor does find VonC, though. I
don't know if Hundor wants his fight, but maybe he does. Oh, wow. There goes the Crystal Sench. Oh, fountain, though! Can he get away? Yes, he can! Versus Judgment gets stunned! But, oh my goodness, TSM will not die! They are just continuing to say no! And G2 denied continuously here on the Fold.
That is obscene, Dalsy. That was absolutely obscene. I cannot believe that Team Solo Mid were able to back away. The only thing they lost for that was a front treant, unless Hundor can actually push this wave in quickly enough, but I don't see that happening. Flash X is already here. Yeah. That was a really, really crazy getaway from VonC, playing with fire there. How much pressure can they get on the turret, actually? That could be big. Although VonC's rotating in.
This is huge. Look at Best Chuck just dead. The CC train comes in, but here's VonC looking to turn things around. A fountain comes out, and he's going to pick up one. Looking for Hundor as he's second, going to slow, but doesn't quite have the damage or the mobility to jump on in and finish the job. A 1-for-1 trade. TSM, that's okay for them.
That is absolutely okay for them, especially when they're picking up Dark Potato right in time for the jungle rotation that they just stole away already. When's the last time Dark Potato killed a creep in his jungle? That's what I want to know the answer to, Dalsy. I think the last one he got was actually the front camp of Team Solo Mid, and that was just one. So really rough position to be in. Gold advantage just keeps on accruing for Team Solo Mid. They're doing a great job of playing the map. They're not just playing against the heroes that G2 has to offer. They're not just pushing the lane. They're getting advantages everywhere. And this is something which we've known Team Solo Mid to be very good at in the past. Their shot calling is fantastic. You need to have good shot calling to make plays like this work. Otherwise, your team isn't quite close enough to get that fountain when Vonsi's trying to get away. Maybe they're just too far.
Currently, G2 sitting in the lane, but Vonsi is very content to just go down to the shop and pick up some more damage for himself. In fact, might even be able to steal away another rotation if it weren't for the fact that G2 just disappeared off the map. G2 currently, it just feels playing into TSM's hands. They are bluffing for sure in this poker match, but we'll have to see if G2 can find the bluff. Currently walking into TSM in that tri-bush, Dark Potato trying to finish a camp. Hunter, he's just dead! You can't jungle whilst your carry is dying, Dark Potato, and now it might just be the rest of the squad going down as well. Vonsi under the Crystal Sentry gets a heal. Dark Potato will be punished, and this Crystal Sentry gonna go down as well.
This is not good news for G2, Dalsy. They are Europe's last hope. They've got to rally right now, or it's gonna be Team Solo Mid moving on as the 4th American team to actually get towards the final day. That is really, you know, an unprecedentedly bad result for Europe. But at the same time, you can't say they don't, like, deserve it right now. North America are looking absolutely amazing. TSM is looking amazing. They're doing a great job of rotating around the map. G2's got to be careful not to get tunnel vision as well. Dark Potato going for those jungle camps, just because he hasn't had one in a while, probably, in order to not react and actually go back to his teammate, definitely made that situation worse. I don't think he was going to be able to make a fight happen, but maybe you keep him alive. The gold difference is such at this point that it is getting very, very hairy here, especially with now Breaking Point and Fusions picked up on the side of Team Solo Mid.
Vonsi just dives on in, and G2 can't do anything about it. Able to poke on out and start stacking up that Breaking Point. Has to dodge away from the Treant route. G2 not quite able to make a European speciality there, but TSM are going to start up this gold mine, and Keanu got to spot it out, look for a steal. Wasn't able to steal away a Kraken. Maybe he can find some gold. No, he can't, and now they're on the fight. It's going to be G2 in trouble as TSM charges forward. Vonsi dives on in, and Handor gets deleted. Can they get any more is the question. Yes, they can. It's a double. Dark Potato has to try and escape, has an afterburn, should be able to, but TSM are unstoppable in their aggression.
They're doing a great job of finding every window possible. G2 Esports, I understand wanting to go and contest the gold mine right now, but it's kind of tough to do so when you're this far behind, and it's probably not the silver bullet back into the game. Maybe just getting pressure on the lane would have been better here. They did come close to stealing it, but ultimately there's just so much damage on Team Solo Mid. You can see Vonsi as well with the double heal that we were talking about. Poison Shiv is not doing enough. He had more wounds on him during that fight at points, but it didn't matter. It really did not do enough. And also, mortal wounds from Poison Shiv, by the way, Dazzy, it's not easy to control. You're not going to time every third attack to be just right for when that Divine Intervention actually lands versus when it's being cast. Or Adagio, you know, he can play around the mortal wounds because he can actually just react to when it falls off the opponent. If you're kiting as intensely as Hundor was there is a big window of opportunity for Team Solo Mid to just play around the item. And that's kind of what they did.
The one thing I'm most concerned about here, AJ, is that because we're playing a double weapon power composition for G2, Hundor is forced to go towards a Bonesaw as his third and most likely final offensive item. There will not be any breaking point for the Vox. There will not be any ramp up in damage for the Vox. And it just feels like G2 are currently tickling TSM with feathers every time they look for a fight. TSM with the heals from Best Chuck with Flash X as well, continuously able to sustain another fight breaking out, and Hundor is in so much trouble. Vonsi just deletes him, and now G2 have to run. The Crystal Sentry going to lose its life. It's the last as well, eliminated from the Halcyon fold. TSM with a 6,000 gold lead at 12 minutes, and G2 looking hopeless.
You almost got to ask the question, has Team Solomid just been warming up through game 1 and 2? I think the first game looked close at times, so did the second. This one does not. Team Solomid look very dominant. And also, losing that sentry, it's huge here. G2 need the ability to retreat to safety somewhere other than their lane. Here comes the fight.
Best Chuck's been rooted, he's taken on out. That is great. Starts for G2. Vonsi going to be in the midst of it all, and he will go down. That's an overstay from TSM. They used the fountain whilst doing the crystal sentry. Meant it wasn't up for the next team fight, and then just bit off more than they can chew. But they get the turret in the end, so maybe it doesn't even matter.
Depends on what G2 does here, right? They're probably going to get at least one turret. If they can maybe find two, which with double weapon power isn't that tough, that was actually a pretty respectable trade. It looks like they're just going to back away, though. There's a pretty close to 3/4 of the way complete gold mine, if they want it, which they don't. Okay, so G2 Esports, they only get the one turret. That is definitely not a good trade. Even though they picked up kills there, the momentum, the pressure didn't really change much, even though they found a slight edge. Now, with Team Solomid coming close to this Kraken, one thing that I'd like to see, Dalsy, is some scout traps being laid down. You know pretty much 100% of the time that you're able to move, as long as you have flare backup, obviously. You're able to move into the enemy jungle very safely. There's no crystal sentry for them to fight over. They have to run to the lane, and in fact, back to their choke point if they want to get some backup.
Oh,
here we go.
Hundel's just backport. Kianako's just left to his own devices. He's going to have to try and escape, but he can't. In fact, just holds on to everything. The Fountain, the Atlas, the Crucible, knowing full well that was his demise. And what did Hundor back for in the end? I don't know. He's not changed his items. He's currently just sitting by a turret. Maybe it was the Aegis. I may have missed it.
He backed to retreat. Like, literally, he backed to retreat. He thought maybe if he backed now, it would, you know, land just in time for when Team Solomid got close. But obviously G2 Esports wasn't entirely on the same page, and this is maybe a deterioration of communication as we get to the later, more stressful stages of this series. They really have their back against the wall, Dalsy. They were the team to bring down a North American one last time around. I'm sure they'd love to be that team again. But right now, Team Solomid, they don't, obviously, as first seed coming in from North America, want to live, you know, have to live that one down.
It would be unforgivable almost here if TSM was to drop the series to G2, but the unforgivable does not seem even plausible at the moment, as G2 just so far behind in tempo and pacing in every department of this game.
And look, we can talk for days about what the situation is right now on the map, but the important thing to realize is G2's composition doesn't go very many places from here. And that's why we're saying, you know, it's really tough for them to actually, it's implausible for them to actually come back later on. Team Solomid have all of the tools at their disposal to deal with the double weapon power composition. It's going to be really tough.
Kraken has awakened. G2, our final hour for them. Tournament elimination on the cards and an All-American semi-finals day tomorrow. TSM ramping up for it now, and Vonsi leading the charge as well. Hundo in trouble. Hundo is dead. It is another kill for TSM, and Dark Potato falls as well. Can he get a triple to finish it off? Yes, he can. It's Vonsi in North America. It is TSM taking the fight, the win, and the Kraken will be theirs.
The win, not quite yet. You're getting too rowdy with the crowd here, Dalsy. They got a few turrets pushed down, but at the same time, I got to admit, that looks like what's on the cards here. G2 Esports, let's talk about the few ways maybe they could get back into this game. Mispositioning from Team Solomid, missed ability usage. If they divine intervention the wrong target, if they miss tap, you know, that's always going to go badly. Also, finding a pick. You know, Dark Potato does have the capability of punting someone back into the team. If they chain that with the Githian wall, maybe something can happen there. But the problem is, a lot of these things which are normally avenues back into the game in a really, you know, hard losing situation become much more difficult to pull off when the only thing worth fighting around on the map is Kraken is pushing into your base.
TSM heads and shoulders over their opponents. Hundor still knows bone sword for him. Dark Potato only sitting on one offensive item, has not completed the Sorrow Blade, which he has had the components in his inventory, which seems forever. Keanu Nakoa trying to get onto that Echo so we can have a bit more CC, but it just, everything is out of arm's reach. And here comes TSM to put Europe out of its misery and make this an All-American Summer Final. Burst of Judgment gonna fall. Keanu is going to go low. Dark Potato is
can't get back to the
dead.
fountain.
And G2 are falling apart. TSM looking to finish it all here as the Kraken starts taking down this last turret. Hundor
He's given up.
shows his love
He's given
heart.
up.
They know this is it. They are going to allow it to happen. And TSM will be joining Immortals, Cloud9, and Nova in the semi-finals tomorrow. Good night, Europe. You came this far, but this far was not enough.
Man, North America showing up on